if you're like me, or if you're not at all like me, you may still find yourself at this point in the season with perennial plantings that you've done that in which the weeds have gotten away from you like crazy, and you want to try to do some kind of mulching to save them. I have found out through many iterations of trial and error a really good way to do this. So it's a little bit difficult with the one hand. What I'm going to show you is sort of a game changer. So these are, first of all, these are mostly annual weeds. You probably, maybe some of you have noticed the plant that I want to keep here. Probably not most of you though. I can barely see it. Here's my blueberry. It's actually growing really well. It could still have a great season, but in another week, the smartweed, the ragweed, the tear thumb, the sedge, they'll all be over top of it, and it will have a terrible season. So we can completely change that with 1 bucket of mulch, which is a lot of buckets of mulch if you have a lot of plants, but still 1 bucket of mulch and some very precise stomping. So what I'm going to do, this is a little bit more complicated with plants that have multiple stems. This guy looks like it might have just 1 stem, but the principle is the same. So all of this material I'm going to try to fold in, and I'm going to do most of it with my feet. So I'm going to lay this material down and then stomp it over with my left foot towards the center of the plant. So I'm going to be gathering that material with my left foot towards the plant, and then my right foot is stepping it down around the plant. So left grabs it in, right pushes it over, in and over. I'll do a little adjustment. Make sure I'm not getting too much and I'm not missing any. This plant is at a little bit of a funky angle. So I'll just touch it up. And what that's done is all the plants from the outside have been drawn in, so their growing points are going to be completely under the mulch. The ones near the plant will be entirely under the mulch. Now that that's nice and pressed down, I'll go ahead and put my bucket of mulch on. Very awkward with one hand, excuse me. And that plant is not entirely saved. It's not going to have the best season ever, just because of this one intervention. But for the amount of mulch and the, well, lack of soil disturbance that happened, it's hard to do better than that. And I noticed over the years, if you do this sort of just haphazardly without laying the weeds down so that they interlock and mat like that, you really won't get that much mulching effect, or the amount of mulch you put down won't do as much as it could. Here, if you draw the weeds in from the outside towards the center of the stem, cover them with the weeds in the center, and bring it around in a spiral, just like everything in the universe, it's more efficient that way. So I just wanted to share that little technique because this is the time of year where it matters the most. The month of June, for most of all perennials, is an enormous growth month. And after that, things kind of change towards beginning the process of hardening off, and it depends on the plant. But for the most part, June is a critical month that you want to get as much growth as possible. And keeping these leaves all in the full sun and keeping the root zone much less competitive will give this plant a huge advantage.